I've always had a love and hate relationship with the term I feel unworthy. And this is something that I've used myself a lot and that I've seen other people use, quite often when they have a harder time going towards what they really care about, what they really want to see unfold in their lives. And I've really started asking myself there is more to it, especially, several years ago when I was crippled by feelings of unworthiness and I wanted to do so many things and I felt under-resourced internally to go after these things. I felt crippled. I felt afraid. I started looking into this and my personal experience and the experience of the hundreds of people that I've worked with on a one-on-one level or in a group setting and, the thousands that I've worked with in a facilitation settings, in workshops, it has really illuminated in a very practical sense what is really underneath these feelings of unworthiness. And that's what we're going to explore basically in this video here. So if you're new to my channel, my name is Xavier Dagba, and the purpose of this space is to ignite conversations that spark self-liberation. So let's talk about feeling unworthy. At this point, I really think that the feeling of unworthiness we usually battle with is very often a protection mechanism against the perceived consequences that we imagine about going after what we truly desire. At this point, this is one big conviction and why I've seen over and over, I've asked over and over this question to many people. If I allow myself to feel worthy right now, what I am afraid will happen is... I've asked over and over that question to so many people, and they've always brought up some sort of fear. Usually a fear from their past that they are projecting onto their endeavors, that they are projecting onto what they actually want. And there is something so beautiful about the human psyche. Until we can demonstrate to our nervous system that we know how to handle that fear and we know how to handle the pain that is beneath the fear, there is a part of us that is going to tell us, hey, slow down. Slow down. And I find that beautiful. Because the feeling of unworthiness actually, what if its highest invitation was to point toward the part of you that has not yet been discharged from the pain that you've been carrying from the past. There's an intrinsic feeling of vulnerability that comes with going after what you desire. It is as if you're opening up without any guarantee of success. It is vulnerable to ask for what you want. It is vulnerable to go after what you truly desire. It is vulnerable to, at work, ask for a raise. It is vulnerable to bring your voice out there. It is vulnerable to share your art. It is vulnerable to start a business. We talk a lot about the vulnerability that is associated with sharing our pain and sharing our hurt, opening up about our wounds and opening up about our traumas, which is deeply vulnerable, and it's worth acknowledging. But we talk very little about the vulnerability that comes with embracing your brightness. So we have a lot of terms that we've used to actually describe that vulnerability. Feeling unworthy. It's another way of saying, hey, I feel quite vulnerable about going after what I truly desire. Self-sabotage. It's also another way that we name that vulnerability without even knowing we're talking about it. Feeling like an imposter. It's another way we address that vulnerability. There are so many ways. We say I'm stepping in my own way. At the core of it, there's a deep vulnerability that we associate with going after what we truly want. So the question is, why is it actually so crippling? And it depends for so many people, but here's something that I've seen. if growing up, going after what you truly want or going after what you truly desire had high consequences, or if not achieving something that was deemed really meaningful either by you, by caregivers, had high consequences, then usually we try to kind of like push it away. It is safer not to attempt. And by high consequences, what I mean, especially for a child, a withdrawal of love from a parent is a high consequence. For a child, what can be perceived as a high consequence is not the same, for an adult. So maybe a high consequence would just be having a parent not acknowledging your effort and not acknowledging how hard you tried, and you were just expected to have the straight A's, or I don't know what it was for you. But usually we just internalize, wow, I must not be worthy of this thing that I want. I must just not be worthy of the love that I crave. I may just not be worthy of like having a successful business, or, being recognized in my particular field, whatever that may be, or having the relationship that I want. And that's usually one thing that we do. And it's also a beautiful cop-out. It is a beautiful cop-out. And I think it is necessary to call it for what it is. Without shaming ourselves, without guilting ourselves, just realizing, hey, this is one of the ways I've kept myself safe from further disappointment. This is one of the ways I've kept myself safe from experiencing failure, and from having my self-esteem lowered even more because of, the perceived failure. And the more you acknowledge that, it gives you an opportunity to actually face the pain that was underneath that. To actually reconcile with the part of you that was screaming and asking for your attention. And the more you are able to do that, the more you are actually able to live the reality that even the feeling of unworthiness that was screaming inside of you is a way the universe at large is being benevolent with you. Because that feeling is showing up so that you can reconcile something that needed to be reconciled in order to make room for what you truly desire. Even the deepest pains that you're carrying that keep flaring up and they keep flaring up. The flaring up is the benevolent design of your innate intelligence that is not separate from the universal intelligence, or God if you wish. And if you really receive the fact that all of life is conspiring in a way that can be sometimes very confusing to actually support you, to actually help you remember your innate worthiness, then you're gonna start realizing that you've been living in this fiction where past pain has been dictating your feelings of unworthiness. And the more you can meet these past pains with a healthy degree of compassion, the more you liberate yourself, and you realize that feeling unworthy was actually a myth that was pointing toward a pain. You can resolve that pain, and you can begin to skillfully open your heart again to what you truly desire. You can begin to skillfully work with disappointment. You can begin to skillfully work with the fear of failure. And you can even begin to realize that contracted within these fears were the energy you needed to really soar. And you can begin to harness that. So this is something I really wanted to share about the myth of unworthiness. And if this resonates, I'm inviting you to share it with others around you. I'm also inviting you, to check my free Shadow Integration mini course. And that can help you begin to resolve some of the inner tensions, the hidden forces that are keeping you from embracing what you truly desire. I want to thank you for being here. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next video.